Okay, my pumpkins, here we are. I'm going to show you how to do sort of the basically examples of the exact same homework that you're going to be doing for credit. And so here we are in the MyLab homework interface, and what they're asking you to do here is construct a balance sheet. And they give you a blank for the balance sheet, but guess what? We're going to do it in Excel, because here's the thing. You make these Excel sheets and you get the formulas going for these examples that I show you, and then when you go to do the homework that I'm not showing you how to do, it'll be essentially the same thing, and you'll have a spreadsheet already ready for you. So let's get started. So here, what they want you to do is pop up a data table, which is here. And this gives you all of these accounts with their balances for 2016 and 2017. And I want you to note up here, click on the following icon in order to copy its contents into a spreadsheet. So people, you don't even have to do any data entry of these words or numbers. Okay, so we'll click on that. We're going to open it in Excel. Okay, that'll download a new spreadsheet for you. Of course, you could just copy it onto the clipboard. Now this is too small for you to see, and it's taking up my whole screen, so I'm going to do my magic. That's an app, a Mac app called Magnet, and it's really nice. It'll divide up your screen real estate evenly, which is very convenient. I'll make this big enough for you to be able to see. So you should be able to see this at this point. And then I will make this one the other half of the page and get going for you so we can close this out. So they give you a hint about what a balance sheet is supposed to look like. And the first thing you need to do is construct a balance sheet for 2016 and 2017. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's, over here, we can just sort of start, we can copy the I guess the skeleton, the way that they have it. We have current assets. And there's 3 lines there, 1, 2, 3. And then total current assets, and then fixed assets, and then 3 lines there, 1, 2, 3, and then total assets. Okay, so we have 2016 and 2017. I'll make these columns a little narrower. And then over here, let's make a blank column here. Over here we have liabilities in all caps. Current liabilities. Make this column a little wider. 1 blank line, total current liabilities. And then another line for total liabilities, which is along the same area as owner's equity. And there's 2 lines there, and then total owner's equity. And then on the same line as total assets, we have total liabilities and equity. Okay, so we have our skeleton set up. Now you could make it look just like this over here in Excel. And I think what I'll do is pause the recording for a minute and then do that so that it becomes apparent what it is that we're trying to do here. Okay, so I'm going to hit pause. Okay, so that took about maybe 5 minutes for me to do that. And I want to note this is not precisely like the way that this thing over here looks, but this is pretty similar to what I would make in a corporate setting. When I was a young analyst, I would make spreadsheets that look like this, and the reason for it is because it becomes really clear where you're supposed to input data and where you should not. right? So all these blue cells, there's nothing to put in there. All the white cells with boxes around them have the need for data. So let's go ahead, actually, and start grabbing these. So we can take, let's see, current assets. So that's cash. So if you just copy those 3 columns, and it should just go right in. Yeah. And what else is a current asset? Inventory. Is there accounts receivable? Yeah, accounts receivable. So typically you would have current assets presented in this order, in order of liquidity. So cash is the most liquid, accounts receivable is almost as liquid as cash, and then inventory is not quite as liquid because you don't know for sure whether you're going to sell it. So paste that in there. So our total current assets, we can use a sum formula. Okay, and then fixed assets. What do we have up here for fixed assets? They're looking for 3 items. Property, plant, and equipment. Copy. Paste. And then there's accumulated depreciation, which is part of the property, plant, and equipment, sort of in the fixed asset category. And then you would say net fixed assets, I believe. Subtract the accumulated depreciation from the value of the property, plant, and equipment. And so then our total assets are going to be current assets plus net fixed assets. So that is that. Okay. I've set this up so you can have a couple of check my works. But I obviously can't check my work over here in Excel. I hope I got it right. I'm not going to check my work until the end when I can click to see the worked solution. All right, current liabilities then. What do we have up here? Accounts payable, right? Get that out of there. And of course you could cut and paste rather than copying and paste if you wanted to. And then our long-term debt. You could also do cell references instead of copying and paste. Either way, as long as you have equations in here, you'll be able to use this spreadsheet for the actual homework assignments that you have that are graded and that go into your course grade. So there's our total liabilities, and then our equity accounts are retained earnings and common stock. So let's do common stock first. And retained earnings. So our total owner's equity, I need to make that cell blank and bordered. Total equity is these two together. And our total liabilities and equity with our fingers crossed. Liabilities over here, equity here, looks like the same number. And I want to show you something that I normally do when I'm creating a balance sheet for my own purposes, and that is that I do a little balance check. If you're ever going to take my upper level finance class, I'll show you, I go into a lot of detail about how to create functioning, connected financial statements. But one of the things is when you're making a really big, complicated financial model, the one hint that you might actually have done it right is if your balance sheet is in balance. And so what you can do is make a little line here that says balance check. And we want to, let's see, we want to say if this number minus that number is 0, right? So if they're the same, then we want to say okay. And if they're not the same, then we could say, you, I'm not going to swear at myself, you dummy, find the mistake. Okay, so these we know are okay. If I went and changed this to a different number, 15995, it'll say, you dummy, find the mistake here. So that's kind of a cool thing to do. A neat Excel trick that I like to play. So that is how you create the balance sheet out of these account balances and how you make sure that it balances. The next thing is to list the working capital accounts, which of course are your current assets and your current liabilities. Find the net working capital for the years ending 2016 and 2017. So let's calculate that. Net working capital. Okay, so net working capital is going to be current assets minus current liabilities, right? And this should just transfer over. Let me just pull it over and make sure that it does. So if I double click, I see that we have current assets minus current liabilities, so that is right. And so then the change in working capital, here, we'll put the years here just to keep it straight. And make those dollars with no zeros, just to differentiate them from the years here, because these are all starting to look kind of ugly. And so then the change is going to be, I can't remember if it's new minus old or not. I'm going to have to look at the answer and then verify. New minus old. So there's $35 more in working capital in 2017. So this is positive because 2017 is higher than 2018. I'm sorry, than 2016. Okay, so let's look at the work solution, which I get to do and I don't think you can. So, yay, we got it right, $35 positive, okay? So that's how you do the first of the practice, okay? And for your actual graded homework, you'll have to do that, something similar, okay? Now that you've got this all worked out over here in Excel, now you enter your data over here because, and you don't have to like type in the words, right? But you do have to type in the numbers. So 1304. So it's just like Cengage in that regard, except it's a cleaner interface, right? So this is nothing more than a data entry screen, but it'll check, make sure that you've done it right. But my point in having you do this in Excel always is that once you have this thing set up, you can do your homework easily. You just make minor adjustments to it if needed. And secondly, you'll have it and you'll own it, because I'll tell you guys, you will be using this stuff through the whole semester and potentially through your career. So you may as well make nice, neat models so that you can keep them, okay? So anyways, now I'm going to pause it and move on to the next. Okay, so here we are in the income statement, and I didn't make you watch me do all that formatting. That one was enough. I don't want this thing to go on forever. So what we want to do is just quickly create this income statement, which we should be familiar with. And what I'm going to do this time, instead of copying, I'm going to pick them up and drag them. There's many ways to, if I can get it to go, there we go. There's many ways to get data from point A to point B. So we have data, and then our cost of goods sold, and not sure if we need a gross margin or not. Let's see how many, you know what, let's go over here and see if gross margin exists. Okay, so we don't have to do a multi-step income statement. So let's just pick up our SG&A, thusly, and then what do we have next? earnings before, oh, depreciation, right. So that's 4 lines here. And then our earnings before interest and taxes is going to be revenue minus all of these guys. And then the next line is going to be interest expense. So that means that our taxable income is going to be our EBIT minus the interest. And then our next thing is going to be taxes. And that means that our net income is going to be 145 minus 58. And again, it's just easier to use Excel as a calculator, even as in this very simple example, because then what will happen is you've got these subtotals here all set up for you. So when you go to do your own homework, you'll just plug in different numbers and you'll be all set, okay? So, and the next thing that we want to do is the operating cash flow, which I'm sure you remember is the net income, and then you add back depreciation. And then you also add back interest expense because that is a financing cash flow, okay? So operating cash flow is net income plus depreciation plus interest expense because it's a financing cash flow. Okay, and then let's check the worked solution, make sure that's right. Net income is 87 and operating cash flow is 276. So that's how you do the next one. So you see, these really aren't so bad. It's just a little tedious, but you know, they make it so that you don't have to do your own data entry. So that's nice. Okay. Okay, this next one, the third example in your practice problem, is really interesting because it's essentially the same thing as number 1, right? They're asking you to make a balance sheet, they're asking you to list the working capital, they're asking you to find the net working capital and calculate the change. And so that was exactly the same as over here. This is problem 1 over here that we already calculated, right? And so what I want you to do, what I did when I opened this thing up, I'm like, oh my God, it's exactly the same. Let me just double check. Is it exactly the same? And so what you can do is look and just kind of eyeball whether these accounts that they initially set you up with are the same. So we've got accumulated depreciation, accounts payable, receivable, cash, stock, inventory, long-term debt, PP&E, and retained earnings. So they are, in fact, the same accounts. So here's what you can do. All right, let's empty these all out, just clear them, and empty all these actual accounts out, right? But leave the calculations in place because everything was calculated, right? Yeah. Okay. So now look at how easy it is, right? All we got to do is go and pick up these amounts. So cash in 2016 was $12.19, and in 2017 it was $14.89, and accounts receivable in 2016 was $31.56, and in 2017 was $36.52. Now the other thing is I'm going to deliberately make a mistake here, okay? Because I want to show you how easy it is to fix things. Okay, so I just made a mistake in entering my data for inventory, right? But I don't know that yet, right? So you're just entering along, you know, and something, you're going to see that it's not right when you get to the end, but let's just continue on with our data entry. Okay, the accounts payable is $29.09. Long-term debt excuse me, is 3,600. Property, plant, and equipment. Accumulated depreciation. Gosh, I'm making mistakes left and right, right? Common stock. Retained earnings. Okay, now another thing that you can do once you have, remember I told you when we first set this up that what you want to do is make it obvious which cells are for data entry and which cells are not. And so now that we have calculations in a bunch of these cells, we can go ahead and blue those out as well. And you can do that if you wanted to. You can go into the Formulas tab, and there's a little function that says Show Formulas. So I can see which of these cells have formulas in them. So I can go ahead back home to the home page and just give those maybe a lighter shade of blue, maybe. Like that. So then I know which cells have formulas in them. Right, so all of these cells that have formulas in them, go back to the Formula tab, get out of the Show Formulas thing, it'll take you right back where you were. So all of these cells that have formulas within them, I know that I don't need to redo that work. Right, these calculations are already in place. Oh, this one too, right? Actually, I forgot to do those because it expands, right? When the thing shows you the Show Formula option, it expands so that you can see the whole formula, and this one was quite long, right? Okay, so now we did all that data entry. Now there is a problem, right? There's a problem. This thing is telling me that I did something wrong, right? So let's figure out what the problem is. So what we want to do first of all is calculate. So this formula says if B23 minus F23 is 0, right? But we know that it's not, right? So we can do a balance check for 2016. So we can just say right, so we know that we've got a $5 problem here in 2016. Okay, so let's then look and just look in the row of 2016. So now we know that our problem is in 2016, and let's just look in our data entry and just double check. And so, I know where the mistake was because I talked about it, right? But what you would do is, painstakingly, and it is a pain, I'll give you that, but painstakingly just kind of go through all these numbers and figure out where you made a data entry problem, okay? So I know that this number is supposed to be 4350, and when I do that, this difference is 0, this comes up as okay, and it is properly calculated. And then if I look over here, I can be pretty confident that this is going to be the right solution. So 1263 here is our change in net working capital, and all these numbers are right. So that, as you can see, why I keep harping on you guys to use Excel for this kind of stuff, because it was so fast. Okay? All right, pausing it, going on to the next one. Okay, so here we have, it looks like, a similar income statement problem. And again, I'm not going to take you through this. I don't want this video to be 10 years long, right? I just want you to go through, go to the other spreadsheet that we just did, the income statement spreadsheet, wherever it is. right? Go to the income statement spreadsheet, re-enter the new data, right? So you zero these all out. Again, you would just before you do anything, just note which of these numbers are calculated. And then this is going to be calculated as well. Enter the new data. Enter it over here in your MyLab, and then check it, and it should work out perfectly for you. Okay. And so once you've done that, right, easy as could be, I want to take a sneak peek at your graded homework.